They said man-made lights are meant to replicate the natural light of the sun, that these lights were meant to illuminate spaces in the dark. But lights, they hold tales, history, and mysteries. They are witness to all change. In Poblacion, light is the core of life. Flickering at dawn, red at night. It's something you experience, something you taste. It irradiates the stage. Poblacion, it's time to shine.
It always brings back so many memories, kind of walking down this street. For me personally, this is where most of my interactions with Poblacion actually happened. And a lot of the new activities that you see now actually all started on this particular street. This is actually my old office. I had a pop-up bar and kitchen called the Red Light, and it was right up here. And my office was upstairs as well. And it was so great. We had a kitchen in the back, a commissary actually for some of my restaurant concepts, and we had a pop-up bar in front. So what we would do is we would shoot all our videos during the day, and then we would open up at night, put on the Red Light, and have people kind of come in and experience the food. And it was a cheeky name, the Red Light, because we were in the Red Light district. And one of the main reasons I wanted to open here was because Chupacabra is right across, and it was one of my favorite kind of Mexican places to just have a beer and a taco in. So we're gonna do that now. Thank you.
The chicken street taco.
Awesome.
And then one carne asada burrito.
Perfect, thank you. Man, I haven't had one of these in a long, long time. I used to be here like all the time. And back then, there were no other restaurants, which is pretty crazy to think of now, since there's so much happening all the time. And it was Red Light, it was Chupacabra, Heckle and Jekyll, and then Tambay at one point opened up, and they had like these crazy party place on top of it that got shut down, I think at one point, because the people here were all residents at that point, right? And so they were all complaining about the noise levels and stuff, which is something kind of we all had to learn very quickly. Let's give this a try. Still is good. Thank you. So this is a plaque. In another life, I was the food and drinks editor of Esquire Philippines. And in 2012, Chupacabra had just opened, and I gave them the best new restaurant plaque. So it's cool to see it again. And it's cool to see that it's still here. I appreciate that. So now that I'm an aged millennial, I don't spend as much time in Poblacion as I used to. So when I come around here, it feels so different. Everything's changed. My very first experience in general was when it was a thriving red light district, and we were young kids, 16, kind of just like really curious what was happening here. And we would drive by really quickly with the windows down to kind of see the seedy part of town. And slowly, people started generating interest of actually setting up businesses here. Yummy. Makes me feel younger. Man, I haven't been here in what seems like forever. And where I was talking about those curious teenage years, this played a pivotal part. They opened in 2003. I graduated in 2004. So our senior year, we would come here to drink, and it was a crazy ambience. It was just the perfect dive bar. Sorry, boss. Hey, can I order one Pilsner, please?
One Pilsner?
Yeah.
Fine, sir.
Yeah, half pint. Thank you. Thank you. First, we didn't call this Poblacion. You would say, let's go to Burgos. So you would go to Burgos Street. We didn't call it Poblacion. And eventually, when Z Hostel opened, they called it Poblacion. And then now, Pub has taken over. I'm not a huge fan of that, nickname, but if that's what people are using now, fine. And all the bars that are around here now, beautiful cocktail bars with bar programs that are so delicious. But having a beer here is just always so grounding. We spent so many hours here just drinking, watching sports on the TV, and just kind of meeting different people from all walks of life. So at one point, the development just stops and you walk into a very calm and peaceful residential area. It is a major thoroughfare, obviously, but you can imagine the people who have lived here for decades, the property prices of these houses must be insane now. But we've also heard that the development in general has also caused a nuisance when it comes to just people's daily lives. Imagine you live here in a quiet village, and all of a sudden, you're surrounded by bars, restaurants, drunk people at 3, 4 in the morning. It would piss off some people who live here as well, right? So slowly, you'll see the restaurants and bars opening up further and further into the villages. But I think the association and probably a lot of the residents that do live here are trying to push that back a little bit. And this is kind of like, I think, what started Pub, Z Hostel. Hostels back then weren't necessarily seen as cool. You go to Europe, you go to the US, you had hostels that became kind of like hubs for youth communities, for young travelers. They didn't want to spend much, but wanted to connect with other travelers. And so they would come to different places in the Philippines, but there was really not one place where they could all come together. Z Hostel started that, and it became like a huge party place. And I think when this opened, it was kind of like the spark. Everyone was like, oh, we can make this a really cool bar street, because back then we didn't have a bar street. So Poblacion Makati, from that spark, fire. So we're at the top of Z Hostel, and here you have the skyline of the whole city of Makati, basically. Kind of gives you a nice bird's eye view of both how big and how small this part of town is and how much it's changed. I can only imagine if you came here 5 or 10 years ago, this whole skyline would have been completely different. And now seeing it change over the years, and me myself kind of experiencing that change in maybe 3 different phases, it really got us interested into seeing and maybe digging a little deeper into what the history of Poblacion is. We honestly sometimes get caught up in the development that we really don't know where something starts, and that's kind of the idea we had with this piece, is to see where it all started and see how it all came together. So to understand where something is going, you need to first understand where it came from and how it began.
The narrative of how Makati got its name is related to the waters of the Pasig River when Miguel Lopez de Legazpi, the first Governor General of the Philippines, chanced upon this community by the Pasig River. He asked them in Spanish, what is the name of this place? Of course, they couldn't understand him. They instead told him that the water of the river is ebbing.
Pag na yung tubig, bumababa, Kati. Makati. Kati, ibig sabihin bumaba ang tubig sa ilog. Makati na, Makati na. Kasi yung pinagkatandaan, puro mga nangunguha ng isda sa ilog. Kaya malaking bagay yung ilog na yun.
In the cultural mapping of Poblacion, when we interviewed elders, the lives of the residents revolved around the river. They had very fond memories of the river. That's where they washed their clothes. That's where they hung out. It's where they got their food and water. Their drinking water came from the river. But then, when I was growing up, it was a time when we turned our backs on the river. Because in the 80s, the river was really polluted. But we have a park by the river, which used to be the town market. People come there. They actually enjoy chilling by the river. So I guess they do appreciate having that. So I guess now, people are more informed, especially the young people, I think. It's the young people who are more conscious of the importance of the river to our community. So I'm hopeful that they would lead in the recognition of Pasig River's importance to our community. Poblacion is a Spanish word which means population. Over time, its usage in the Philippines meant the town center because that's where most people are located.
Ako taga Makati mismo. Dito ako pinanganak, 1931. Lumaki na halos dito at ngayon sa mga edad na ito, nandito pa rin sa Makati. Sabi ko, mapala din naman binubuhay pa ako ni Lord para merong malaman yung mga nandito ngayon.
The church is the oldest concrete structure that still exists here in Makati. It was founded in 1608 and then it was opened by 1620. It was finished. Life in the community really revolved around the church.
Yung simbahan na yan ang malaking bagay sa amin lahat. Lumaki kami din sa simbahan na yan. It so happened na ang lolo ko ang naging janitor. So yung lolo ko ngayon, kasama akong lumaki dun sa simbahan na yun. Marami akong na-experience dyan sa simbahan. Magmula nang ipakilala yung Virgen de la Rosa nung araw dito, merong magandang gumawa ng awit. Da 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 da. La 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 la.
Faith is very important here in Poblacion. I'm happy that we have that we still have that. It encourages people to come together, especially for our Holy Week traditions. That centrality to the church was passed on to the different generations. So up to now, it still holds importance to the lives of the people here in Poblacion. It's also very important in my life personally because it's where I grew up and met my core friends. Poblacion was established during the Spanish colonial period. It wasn't really meant for commerce. It was an agricultural community primarily.
Yun lang ang dito, hanap buhay, farming at saka fishing. Ang unang-unang nagbigay yaman doon, yung Insular Bakery. Gumawa sila ng bread. Doon nagsimula ang unang-unang ng pag-unlad. Nandungating mga Amerikano, iba kinakain namin. Hindi na yung wet-wet, tuyo. Saka tuwang-tuwa sila sa lugar natin kasi bundok, pagbaba, ilog.
After the Second World War, when the CBD was developed, of course, naturally, it also spilled over to the nearby communities, which we have seen in the last few decades.
Ang incheck number 1, nagtayo ng maraming, dati ang tindahan, kubol-kubol lang. Kasi may mga incheck na mababait, pagka nakita kang talagang dinidiretso nila para lumika ng magandang buhay.
It's a vicious cycle of trying to maintain peace and order in that area. And it gave us a really bad reputation. For a while, Poblacion was known as the red light district. Now, there's a better image. but it doesn't paint complete picture of Poblacion because it has glossed over the fact that we are the heritage district of Makati. All of these make up Poblacion, but we hope that the more substantial dimensions of our community are highlighted. The documented story of Makati was said to have started from the Pasig River. The people of Makati do not welcome parex because based on other places where they build overhead highways, the communities under become blighted, and that's when the community starts to die. So we don't want that to happen here in Poblacion. It's been proven building skyways or highways does not alleviate traffic congestion. We hope it does not get built, and it's going to really destroy the communities, not just here in Makati, in all the cities in Metro Manila that the Pasig River traverses, and that they're going to build this parex. The prices of property here in Poblacion have really gone high, and many of the families have opted to either sell their property or rent them out. So that is the threat in maintaining the character of Poblacion. We want to encourage families to just open up small businesses in their own homes because that's going to be allowed in our new zoning ordinance. We have a Makati Poblacion Heritage District Master Redevelopment Plan for an identified area established as our heritage zone or heritage district. The physical development in this area will be very regulated and are geared towards preserving the spirit of the community. Hopefully, when that happens, the people, the residents, will begin to recognize and give more value to the place and encourage more connection between us. We're just here to enhance what's already there, not to totally transform the place into something that it's not. The plan is to improve the public areas so that they can become better places for people to connect and for our traditions to flourish into the future. I really just love Poblacion. I genuinely love this place where how I was introduced into a bigger community than just my family or my school. Now I'm with the city government and I'm still working for Poblacion, and that makes me happy.
Halos lahat yung mga naninirahan dito, maganda mga samahan, yung bigayan. Kaya kaming mga tumanda hanggang ngayon magkakasama.
One must visit Insular Bakery. It's the oldest existing bakery in Makati. That's really where we bought our bread. I especially love their kababayan. And pan de bomba, that's very sikat.
Insular Bakery, it's the original bakery in Poblacion. We're baking for you guys since 1924 up to now.
And it's your neighborhood bakery. Sabi nga nila, it's traditional baking done right. Insular Bakery started with my grandfather, Mario Figueroa. He was a baker in Santa Ana Bakery from early 1900s, 1920s. And then he started wanting to have his own bakery in Makati. So he started here in 1924. But not in this location. It was
Across the river, Mandaluyong.
And then he transferred to Makati, and it started as a small bakery. And then eventually, my parents took over. So it was my parents who mechanized it, improved the structure, and developed it. And then by the 1960s, became a family corporation. We were all born here. We used to have a house on the 4th floor. So there was a house and the bakery downstairs. That's where we grew up until 1980. So we had to pass through the bakery in order to go to our house. And we're supposed to help either packaging, either doing cashier. We grew up working at the same time looking over production. We were friends with all our bakers and everything. So it was really part of our family and part of our growing up. Insular Bakery is a landmark in Poblacion. Everyone describes Poblacion insular because they all grew up here. Probably from their childhood, they were buying here already. Even balikbayans would eventually come home here. So it became an iconic landmark for Poblacion. We stuck with traditional Filipino bakery products because we want to concentrate yung foundation talaga, which is the pandesal, pandebomba, kababayan, the ordinary ensaymada, mamon tostado. Those are the products that have been around for years already. And then, yung mga best sellers namin is lately, it's the bizcocho. Everyone likes the bizcocho. Poblacion was a very quiet residential neighborhood. We used to bike at the back streets where the restaurants are
Even
now.
here in P. Burgos.
Yes, we used to bike, we used to play in the
That's our
streets.
playground.
It was really a small community, so everyone grew up with the same products, everyone enjoyed it from childhood. So those people who grew up here really know each other. What makes Poblacion Poblacion is the community. Friends and Neighbors has been around in the 60s. So whenever we need lunch, Friends and Neighbors, we'd always call because we're also friends with the owners. So
We try to support each other.
we support each other, yes. We love their lechon kawali,
Yes,
their
my favorite.
laing. Those are our favorites.
Ang Insular, those are the pioneering families here. So magkakakilala talaga yung mga fathers namin. Naging close sila kasi they would always approach my father for legal matters, pati ginawa na nilang ninong ng mga anak hanggang sa kasal, mga ganun. We purchase from them, they also patronize our products. This started na all 6 of us were in school. Tapos, my mom has nothing to do to keep her busy. Tapos, nabenta tong property na to. Ginawang restaurant, small kainan lang. As time passed by, dumami yung clients from a counter and 3 tables until we had to build a permanent structure. So, naging building na siya. Yung tatay ko nun. He dreamt of being a college graduate. Yung public elementary school, they call it bundok. Kasi mataas siya. So pag tinanong, saan ka nag-aaral? Sa bundok. After elementary, nag-top siya sa Araulio High School. Tapos, he was the first accountant here in Poblacion. There was a big celebration when he graduated and passed. After being an accountant, he continued studying law. Again, he was the first lawyer. So there was a big celebration again. Kaya he was one of the early hermanos in Poblacion. We love food. Family na we love to eat. So when we go out and notice something or merong na-hype na mga menu, we try to incorporate it kung kaya dito sa restaurant. I think we were the first here to introduce laing kasi my mom is Bicolana. We're known for Bicol Express, ginataang sitaw, ginataang langka. Sa meat naman, we're known for the beef steak, caldereta, and we have sisig. The food hasn't changed. It's the same as they remember. Recently, a guy who used to work for DBP some 20 years ago, eventually he migrated to Canada, just came back. Ito yung first place na pinuntahan niya. Sabi niya, kailang hinotice iba na yung area namin, pero dito pa rin kami. Sabi niya, nung nakain ko, parang it brings back old memories daw when he was young.
Station is an American diner. So it opened 35 years ago. And it was founded by my dad and an ex-Navy chef. So they came together and they were like, let's open an authentic American diner.
So I think it's evolved throughout the years, like from 35 years ago when it opened until today, from being like a resto bar at night to a place where families can actually dine and enjoy.
My dad, he travels a lot before and he would go to antique malls. Each and everything you see here from floor to ceiling is handpicked by him and only him. He has a thing with history. He's an avid collector and that's when he started.
He kind of wants to keep up with what people want to see. So he asked us also what characters in now, what do kids or people want to see.
35 years ago until now, as you can see, there's still bars here. Before, we were a close family. We all had our own thing going on, but since it was 24 hours and the bars would reach up till early morning, Filling Station would cater to the bars here. And then through the pandemic, most of them closed. And I think they just wanted to pay homage and put themselves up on the wall. So every time the owners would come here, they'd be like, oh, we are a part of the building.
They're a big reason why Filling Station was successful at first because it was a small restaurant. So without them, it wouldn't have the capability to expand. So for us to also commemorate them, we wanted to put them on the walls because they were once like lit up outside. So we want to make them feel like they're not just in Filling Station, but they're still like in Burgos. The people from the bars still do get takeout from us. They still come here after their shift. But I think the relationship with the community got stronger because now it's not just the bars. Most of our clients are also the residents here and also people from offices.
I would say this is everybody's restaurant.
If you look around, I think we're like the only American diner here. And what makes it more unique also is the menu. So you'd expect that our menu would only have American food. But we actually have a Filipino part of the menu. And surprisingly, Filipino includes most of our bestsellers, aside from the American burgers and drinks.
The food is all-day breakfast. Pancakes and waffles, pizzas, burgers. My personal favorite is the station specialties and the Filipino food. And we smoke our own meats. For the drinks, classic. A vanilla milkshake, a chocolate milkshake, and a strawberry milkshake. And then we expanded to more flavors. The next would be a root beer float and a Coke float.
Poblacion's the birthplace of like a lot of ideas. Unique concepts can thrive here because also of the people.
But we're here to stay as an OG building. My dad started here, we will continue here. So usually after a late night, we go straight to Otto, have a nice drink.
The reason why I actually enjoy going there also is because of the music. It's usually the spot we choose to go to when we want to go to Poblacion and not go home yet.
Otto is a listening room as well as a cocktail bar. The word Otto itself actually means sound in Japanese. So two of the partners, Miguel Ledesma and Martin Ledesma, they're really fond of Japanese culture. I think every year their family goes to Japan or Tokyo for a holiday. So the inspiration that we had for Otto is the listening room that they would go to in Japan. They wanted to bring that culture here and mix it as well with craft cocktails and an elevated drinking scene. In 2017, there wasn't quite a lot of cocktail bars in Manila yet, and so we felt like there was something missing, so we wanted to be part of it and to be able to expand and like educate. They decided to open in Poblacion because the location is very new. It wasn't very seen yet, so in a way it was like a hole in the wall at the time. And then eventually, a lot of people saw what it could be and the potential. So a lot of people started opening up their own spots and a lot more different concepts, a lot more bars, a lot more restaurants, a lot more cafes now. They've really created a good culture in Poblacion. Like, I think it's everybody's part in the whole picture. It's nice that it's a melting pot of like different nightlife spots. When people come in, we always try to make them feel welcome and at home as much as possible. And I don't think there's a lot of bars that do play vinyl records in Poblacion. Number two, it's the creativity of the drinks that we put out. So our menu that we have now plays a lot on savory flavors or flavors that you usually find in food. So one of the drinks that we really take pride in is the gin fizz sped up, made with truffle oil as the main ingredient. So the whole drink actually takes 2 to 3 days, but in the service, it probably takes only like a minute or even less. The other drink that we have is the Plastic Love Token, based on 80s city pop or Japanese music during the 80s. Which is basically a riff on a margarita, but since it was city pop, Japanese culture, we wanted to make the drink with all Japanese ingredients. So we're using edamame as a syrup and then a kyoho verju. So kyoho is Japanese grapes, then we add citric acid to it to make it into like a sour component to the drink. You definitely want to go to Otto on a Friday night if you're looking for, number one, good cocktails and good service and good hospitality. But also the music quality that we have here is very unique. I'd definitely go to Lampara if I'm looking for Filipino food. They don't serve the usual Filipino cuisine. It's very new, it's very different. I think they see themselves as neo-Filipino actually. We usually bring our guests there whenever we want to show what Poblacion dining is like.
So, Lampara, basically, it brings light, di ba? Yun yung parang naging basis ng Lampara, parang bringing new light to Filipino food. So, we wanted to be that destination na you can be yourself, but at the same time, experience those flavors or those produce that you can only experience in fine dining restaurants. This is how we think we can push Filipino cuisine further. Our best sellers here is the dinakdakan, lamb shank caldereta, the duck leg, the tres leches, and the yema and chocolate. For the cocktails, it's the panakakanakana and the gasera ni Simon. So the duck leg confit. Si RJ kasi favorite ingredient niya yung duck. And he has this ability to actually make the most out of duck. Dinakdakan, and it's spelled D-I-N-U-C-K. Dinakdakan. Kasi we use duck breast for that. It became a staple na everybody, like when a ticket prints, you would always see appetizer, dinakdakan. So desserts, we have the tres leches, a mix between a Filipino mango float and the pinipig flavor. And then the yema and the chocolate, it's like a very textured dessert celebrating the Filipinos' love for chocolate and condensed milk. For the cocktails, we have gasera ni Simon. That cocktail, we light it up. So it's like a small lamp. Tapos, it's also tied up with a cerveza dun sa El Fili na sinaserve. Tapos yung isa is panakakanakana. It's a derivative of that nursery rhyme, yung Indian panakakanakana. This is a cocktail na G&T, pero yung twist is added a black pepper and cardamom infusion. Poblacion was actually our last choice. Kasi when you say Poblacion during that time, parang bars. Like, that's all you think. Tapos, we were invited to do a pop-up by Z Hostel. Okay naman, successful. Like, we were invited again to do a week of just pop-ups. Late na namin na-realize na this is like the perfect spot. To our surprise naman, when we opened it, we were welcomed very warmly. Apparently, if you have a spot that serves full dinner, and then you can just go around after. Natap namin yun. Throughout the months na nag-open kami, na-realize namin, Poblacion is actually such a perfect place to open new concepts, small ideas. It's a perfect breeding place for a concept to thrive. When we opened pre-pandemic, we were afraid kasi kami lang. Pero ang ganda ng progress, ang daming mga small restaurants ang pa-pop up. Parang when you go to Poblacion, it's like a one-stop destination. You just hopefully do your best to find a parking slot and then just walk around. And then pandemic happened. ang dami nga sa Poblacion that cannot keep their businesses open. Tapos now, parang mas maraming bars na ulit yung nag-open. We were talking about it like with the other Poblacion business owners, and then they were like saying, parang nagkakaroon ng renaissance. And it's not a bad thing. Kasi parang if we're talking about renaissance, eventually restaurants are gonna go back here again. Annex House kasi is a place where you can be yourself. Parang when you enter it, parang walang background, walang status. Just there, talk to anyone. Everybody is just like friendly. And they were able to actually evoke that type of setting sa bar na yun.
Annex House all started by accident. We never had plans of being in F&B at all. I make handmade leather goods, and we started a workshop here in Poblacion. And from there, people would wonder, like, what is this? Is this a store? What is it?
So then from there, every Friday we threw a party and we sold a couple cocktails and beer for really cheap. We weren't making money. It was just to promote that we had a studio and a shop in the neighborhood. Eventually it just caught on, and there was people all over the street. There was a line out the door for people waiting to get drinks.
It slowly just kept getting like more and more days each week. And we had no staff when we started. It was literally just the two of us.
Yeah, I was the bartender, she was the cashier. I think once we saw like the cultivation of a community happening, that's when we realized there was something here, that we were building something more than just an F&B concept, but it was completely unplanned.
It's more of like a peek into our
Who
minds.
we are, yeah.
Coming into the property is literally like coming into our minds.
And I think for us, we just created a place that we wanted to feel like home for us.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think we've been really lucky that that's resonated with other people.
Our first cocktail ever was the Gin Buko. I actually got that idea from my late father-in-law. He had a coconut farm, and, you know, we would just go there and he would just make fresh coconut and cuatro cantos. And then our crowd favorite is the mango rum.
The mango rum, yeah.
Everybody loves the mango rum.
We first came up with that when we still had the workshop before it evolved into Annex House. One of our friends from Auto, they were telling us they really love the drink, but there's something missing. So they recommended, why don't you try habanero? And they were saying like the actual pepper, and we found a local habanero hot sauce that actually has mango in it. And then we used that as like the last kind of like topping to the drink, and then it just took off. I think in general, we didn't want to leave the neighborhood. I don't think that it would have felt the same if we tried to do this anywhere else.
Yeah.
We just felt like the neighborhood offered something more, and the neighborhood wasn't done yet. Even though during the pandemic, so many places closed, I really felt that there was going to be a resurgence.
I love Poblacion. Poblacion's always going to be my home. Because people come here to hang out, to party, to eat, and it's a different experience. When you live here, you wake up in the morning and you hear may nagwawalis sa labas, you know? Or the taho vendor, right? Or you talk to your neighbors who are like locals from here.
if we're gonna do this for the long run, and I would love to do Annex House for as long as we can.
Yeah.
I would love for the neighborhood to develop sustainably so we can keep doing this.
Okay lang yung tsura ko doon. Wait lang. Welo lang ako. I'm Nycole T. Castro. They called me as Mayora. 24 ako, yeah. And I have 2 kids. Parehas lalaki. I like dancing, billiards. I go other country to dance, to play some basketball, to play some volleyball.
Gaano ka kadalas dito sa Poblacion?
It depends po. Kapag may gig ako. Pero kung hindi naman, mostly kasi nasa Makati ako, nasa QC. Pero weekend, madalas lagi akong nasa Pobla. Ito yung gimmick spot ko, kumbaga. Ito yung pahingang spot ko. Gusto ko kayong dalhin sa lagi kong pinagigimikan, which is bolt hole. Pero need muna nating maglakad ng kahit konti. So para makita ko, ma-show ko sa inyo kung saan ako lagi napunta. Nalaman ko din tong Poblacion when I was 10, ganon. Kasi yung mom ko nagka-asawa siya dito. Siyempre, patanda ka ng patanda, nag-e-explore ka. So magkakaroon talaga ako ng idea kung ano to. So nag-try akong mag-work as a waitress. Pero yun nga, sabi nila, what if kung gusto mo maging dancer, mas malaki yung kikitain mo. Tapos sabi ko, hindi ko alam, titignan ko muna, pero sige, pag okay, sali ako. Bilang dancer or bilang taong part ng poblasyon, sana hindi nila maisipan ng masama. Pero wala naman, di naman natin may iwasan mag-judge sila eh. Kasi tao lang din sila, tao lang din naman tayo.
Sabi mo nga, kumikita tayo, nagsasayaw tayo para sa pamilya or para kung kanino man, para kanino mo ginagawa ito lahat?
Ginagawa ko to para sa anak ko. Pero sometimes, di naman natin may iwasan maging zero eh. Kasi hindi naman natin hawak yung araw natin kung may trabaho ba tayo this time, may trabaho tayo next time.
Sa time na meron ka ngayon, gaano mo katagal papapasokin sa buhay?
Bilang dancer?
Oo.
Ito kasi, ginagawa ko lang naman siya for part-time. Kasi babalik na ako ng ibang bansa eh. Kumbaga, kasi naman mukhang tanga rito. Wala akong ginagawa sa buhay. Yung anak ko, paano ko papakainin? Nasa ba ako sa magulang? Tumatanda na ako. Magulang din ako. Babae din ako. So, umahanap din ako ng paraan para lang din magkaroon ng pagkakakitaan. Ayan si ate, nagbebenta ng flowers. Isa yan sa part ng Poblacion. Kaya may flowers sa Poblacion. Di ba uso ang ligaw? Uso yung, di ba sunflowers? Di ba? Ayun. Shoutout sa mga parking boy natin dyan. Tara, lakad tayo. Malapit na tayo sa mortal na pinagigimikan ko. Isa na rin yon sa pinaka-favorite ko. Ayun ang boat hole, ayan. Yung nakikita niyang violet na yan. Dito ako laging gumigimik. Kilala na rin ako ng mga riders. Kaya, pwede ba kayo naman? Sila yung mga bouncer sa loob. Okay yan sila, okay sila magbantay. Nagagampanan nila yung pagiging bouncer nila. Pero syempre, di natin may iwasan yung away sa loob. Ito talaga, pinakalagi kong napupuntahan. Masasabi ko na ang bahay ito eh. Promise, sasabi ko ng bahay ito. Ayan, yung mga yan, pag nakakita ng balot yan, magpapalibre yan. Di ba? Nagpapalibre yan, pero kapalit naman ng lahat ng yan pagiging mabuting tao para sa akin. Thankful din ako sa mga to kasi marunong sila makisama. May mga iba't ibang klase, ibang-ibang klase ng tao sa loob ng poblasyon, sa loob ng bar. So ito, uncle dyan, may mga kasama akong tropa na gumigimik pero walang pera. Ang technique dyan, punta sa uncle dyan, bumili kayo ng gin, uminom kayo ng Sprite, Tapos after niyan, pag nalasing, punta kayo ng Bolt. Ganun yung ginagawa nila.
Ngayon, sino kasama mo sa buhay?
Ang kasama ko sa buhay is yung sa bahay, yaya ko, tas yung dalawang anak ko. 2 years old and 4 years old. Parehas lalaki. Kailangan talaga niya ng attention. Para kahit papano, nag-i-improve yung brain niya. Ganun. Na kailangan niya na makakausap. Kasi, nung time kasi na yun, nung medyo baby pa siya, gusto niya lagi ng attention. Most of the time kasi, that time, hindi ko siya nababantayan literal. Kumbaga, hindi pa ako handang maging nanay that time. So, inaasa ko pa lang siya sa mga tito, tita. Baka pwedeng bantayan, may lakad ako, may pupuntahan ako. Ganon. Hindi pa ako mulat masyado that time. Sana inayos ko pala nung una. Nung una pa lang. Sana nagampanan ko. Eh di sana hindi siya ganito ngayon. Pero thankful pa rin ako. Buhay yung panganay ko, okay naman siya. Tiyaga lang, yun lang naman. Yun lang naman kailangan sa buhay. Ayun, lumalaki yung as a single mom, pero okay naman, kaya naman. Tiyaga lang talaga para sa amin. Sa impression ng ibang tao, pag may tattoo ka, bad girl, bad boy kayo. Hindi masama magkaroon ng tattoo. Kasi meron ako, sa wrist. Hindi masama magkaroon na may tattoo, as long as sarili mong perang ginamit mo. Ako, ang dami kong tattoo, pero hindi ako masamang tao. Maangas akong tignan, maldita akong tignan, balagbag ako tignan, pero meron pa rin akong kinakatatakutan. Ito ang pinaka-memorable kasi, kumbaga, parang pangarap siya eh. Ang butterfly nagsisimula sa maliit. Sabihin natin caterpillar. Parang pangarap mo, nagsimula ka sa wala. Then habang nag-grow siya, nag-grow ka. Ang pinaka-ending ng caterpillar is butterfly. Parang pangarap mo, nagsimula ka sa mababa, ang ending successful. Sabihin natin nakikita ng ibang tao hindi ako successful, pero para sa akin successful ako. Kasi nagagampanan ko yung buhay ng ako lang. Wait lang, nanginigim pa ako. Pagod.
Ako nga pala si Rico de Vera, 30 years old. At dating nagtatrabaho sa ringside bar. Tapos yung umabot ng pandemic, yun, nawala na po yung trabaho namin dyan sa ringside. Kaya may kaya? Mineral?
Bumulat ka, kanigalo.
Ang trabaho ngayon, dancer, entertainer sa urban. Okay lang naman yung crowd nila, natutuwa naman din sa amin. Pero nakakamiss na sinasabi na taga ringside kami. Marami din nagsasalita dyan sa ibang bar na sana yung ringside, open na ba yung ringside. Kahit doon kami sa ibang napunta namin sa Korea. Ringside. May naalala pa rin sa amin. Ngayon, bumalik na po ngayon yung ringside dyan sa Burgos. Nakakatuwa na rin po kasi meron ng generation na mayayari. Pwede rin kami bumalik o may bago na rin mga little ones na magbaboxing. Ang tamang tawag lang talaga sa amin, little people o little ones. Kasi masakit sa amin na medyo naman sa midget. Kasi English naman yan. Pero pag sa Amerika yan, galit din sila dun. Ang gusto nila, little people. Meron akong 3 anak, 2 midget at 1 matangkad. Nagkikwento naman yung isa kong panganay na nakasar siya ng nano. Sabi ko, okay lang yan, maging manhid ka na lang. Meron naman din sa akin dati yung bata pa ako, nang bubuli. Pero yung iba ngayon sa dati kasi hanggang salita lang sila, hanggang tawanan. Pero ngayon, meron ng physical, nananakit na yung mga bata, kahit bata pa lang, nanunulak na. Ako nga, tinutulak na rin ako. Siyempre, pinapagalitan ko na rin. Tinanong naman sa akin yung isang panganay ko. Sabi ko, di ko naman kasalanan to. Kasi, sinisi ko nanay ko nun eh. Bakit ako ganito? Kasi yung mga dati kong mga best friend, dati pantay kami. Ngayong nag-i-edad na, tumatangkad na sila, ako hindi. Kaya nagtataka ako, ba't sila matangkad, ako hindi. Kaya sinisi ko nanay ko. Tapos sinabi naman ng nanay ko na, eto na talaga tayo, maliit tayo. Tutulungan naman tayo ng Panginoon sa taas. Kaya ngayon na, tinanggap ko na po yun. Tapos pati yung anak ko, pinapaliwanag ko na sa kanya na hindi ka tatangkad, ganito na mangyayari sa'yo. Kaya approve mo na rin na tatanggapin mo na lang. Meron dito spot na maganda kung gusto nyo dun.
Saan tayo?
Doon sa meron.
O, tara.
Ang gusto kong trabaho lang, upo lang sa office. Parang naisip ko na yung bata pa ako eh. Ngayon, na-realize ko na iba pala yung mga little ones.
Nangangarap ka pa rin ba na parang sana eventually?
Ngayon, hindi na po kasi natanggap ko na entertainer lang ako. Pero ngayon, may nakikita kasi ako sa urban na parang kaya ko maging DJ. Kasi meron akong nakita sa social media na isang little ones na foreigner na nagdi-DJ. Parang inisip ko na wala pa mong sa Pilipinas na maging DJ na little ones.
Ano yun?
Sana. Pa-practice pa. Pero ngayon yung anak ko, inaasa ko, sana hindi na maging, gusto ko maging nakaupo lang siya. Kung gusto niya naman niya maging entertainer, okay lang naman ayon sa kanya. Tuturuan ko naman din siya maging, magpasaya ng ibang tao.
Rico,
Bakit
kayo science?
Medyo, kasi may second life na ako. Nang nangyari, na-aksidente ako sa motor. And kala namin mamamatay na ako kasi tumingin na ako sa langit, kala ko patay na ako, yung pala buhay pa ako. Naramdaman ko ngayon, takot na kasi ang iniisip ko ngayon, pamilya ko. Paano kung mawala man ako, ano mangyayari po sa kanila? Sa mga little people o little ones, tuloy-tuloy mo lang yan kahit may mga basher dyan, kahit naata kayo pa baba, tuloy mo lang yung pangarap mo. Maraming tutulong sa'yo, mga maliliit, mga pamilya mo. Talagang tuloy lang natin papuntang taas.
Gusto ka naman?
Okay lang po.
Para sabihin niya, gusto ko yung maging boxer. Okay lang?
Oo.
I am Febray Millares. I am 78 years old. At dito na po ako lumaki sa Poblacion. Dito ako pinanganak. Ang natatandaan ko nung maliit pa ako, ang mga kalaro ko, yung mga kapitbahay namin na nagsilaki na rin dito. Masaya kami talaga kasi lahat magkakaibigan. Sa church naman, ang ate ko is kantora sa simbahan. Pinag-aral ako ng ate ko ng piano when I was, I think, grade 4 or grade 3. Doon nagsimula yung aking apostolate. Sa music ministry, Doon ko nakilala yung karamihan ng taga rito. At I'm happy to say na hanggang ngayon, very close pa rin kami.
Sa everyday living niyo naman po, ano po yung masasabi niyo na pinaka-big change?
Unang-una, nang magkaroon kami ng sinasabi nilang Red District, na dati wala, tahimik. Meron ka makikitang kainan o resto, but not a bar. So, meron akong choir member na adult. She has to leave the house, paupahan ito, kasi naiingayan na siya. She went to Quezon City para doon na tumira. Pero sabi niya, ang hirap, Ate Pe, ang hirap umalis. Kasi nga, yung mga nagsilaki na dito, hirap na hirap sila. Sana merong manguna sa kanila na mabago nila ang sistema nila para hindi sila nakakaperwisyo. Tawagin nila yung mga residente. Ano ho ba problema? Paano ho ba kami makakatulong? Parang yun na lang nga pwede namin gawin eh. Dito sa Poblacion, dito na sa lugar namin, 3 kaming nag-aral ng piano, but ako lang ang natira. Pero ay sabi ko, muna ako kayo, kasi because of my operation, sabi ko, dito na lang ako sa church namin. Although, ang hirap din umakyat kasi it's spiral. Pero God gave me this talent, so ibalik ko na lang sa Kanya mas paano. Kaya sabi kong ganyan, hanggat kaya ko, tutugtog ako sa simbahan namin.
Naisip po kayo na bagay sa poblasyon. Ano po yun?
May bukas pa.
I think what makes Poblacion special is it has soul. It hasn't lost its spirit of the community. That's the soul. It's the people who continue to uphold our traditions, who continue to connect with one another, not just through activities or events, but on a daily life.
Kasi lahat, kumbaga anong layo man, nagkakaisa sa lahat ng gawain hanggang ngayon. At natutuwa ako dahil ang laki ng inunlad ng Makati sa mga nilakihan nilang mga ninuno na naumpisahan namin mga matatanda.
Sana nga, marating ko pa yung 5 years. Madagdagan pa ako ng 5 years. Siguro naman, kung merong tao o grupo na malakas ang loob, na bigyan ng pagkakataon ng poblasyon na mabago through their efforts, baka magawan pa rin ang paraan.
Sana 5 years from now, sa street na to, total nagiging tourist spot din ng ibang tao. Sana magkaroon ng more security. Tsaka yung mga vendors magkaroon ng sariling pwesto, kumbaga.
Ngayon, talagang bagong-bago na talaga yun. Kasi ang Poblacion naging party club. Okay lang naman kasi kilala pa rin yung Poblacion eh. Welcome kami dito. Walang nangapi sa amin kasi kahit maglakad kami dyan, tanggap kami dito sa street na to.
It's still gonna be a place where young talented people or older talented people will try to pivot their life and want to try something like a great idea and they want a place to actually let it explode. Feeling ko it's still gonna be Poblacion, the breeding place for great ideas.
Filling station definitely is here to stay. But I feel like in the future, in 5 to 10 years, we're gonna be surrounded by new concepts and ideas that hopefully complement each other. And I think people will go to Burgos and Poblacion area not just for one reason, but to see the different concepts, including this one, which is one of the oldest places here.
Hopefully we're still here for the next 5 years, but yeah, we see Otto for the next 5 years as maybe an institution or like an establishment that has been around through the pandemic, pre-pandemic as well, and post-pandemic, and hopefully we're still serving the same culture and the same vibe that we've always done. I was part of the original team, and I'm sure the future team as well will do a good job, and hopefully like people will do see that and appreciate it and recognize it as well.
I would love for people's perception of what Poblacion is to change, is because we know that there's more than just nightlife here. There's so many random things here and so many things to do, and it's been nice to see that kind of change, because I think that brings us to a point where the neighborhood becomes a little bit more healthy or sustainable, and a place where maybe the residents would really feel more happy about living in. And I think it comes down to the LGU, the business owners, and the residents somehow working together. There is a Poblacion in 5-10 years that does resemble like a very healthy, sustainable, symbiotic relationship with everyone together.
May bukas pa para sa amin.